As we move towards a sustainable future, building a responsible forest bioeconomy is key. One that involves all stakeholders, from governments to the peoples whose livelihoods depend on the forest. Bringing it all together are thousands of attendees at the IUFRO World Congress, and we've got it all covered right here on IUFRO World Congress TV. Welcome back to where else but Stockholm. Don't worry, I'm not about to burst into song. No, today we're going to look at the bioeconomy. As we unravel the many parts that make up a truly sustainable forest sector, from equitable forest operations to wide-ranging forest products, there's lots to discuss in today's episode. Let's see what's coming up.
6 billion people rely directly on forests for food and medicine.
By harnessing and utilizing these NPFPs, we can foster a balanced forest bioeconomy.
We look at how non-timber forest products are contributing to the forest bioeconomy.
All illegal activities in forestry are connected with activities that damage to the biodiversity, to the forestry, and not only economically but also environmentally, and that is maybe even more important.
And look at the illegal side to the bioeconomy and how to control it.
We need to use circular economy approaches to recycle and reuse the carbon that is stored in the wood products that are utilized in the cities.
And take a look at some of the projects around the world doing exciting work in the forest sector. And where can you watch it all? You'll find us on screens throughout the venue, on the IUFRO World Congress website, and you'll find all our content online and on YouTube and X. First, over to Elna and Frederick to get their insight on today's theme.
This theme is really very important for the Congress. Economic sustainability means that viability, productivity, profitability of the forest need to be maintained in the long term. And the Congress will show that all social, ecological, economic, cultural issues need to be considered if we really target sustainable and responsible use of any forest resource. Under climate change, there is a lot of pressure for a lot of demand for renewable solutions, and forest biomass is, of course, at the very center of this debate. The Congress will work on that and develop new products and also new consumer awareness.
The replacement of fossil fuel products is very much on the agenda. And new innovative collaborative platforms. You can listen to that on the innovation stage, where they present innovation, products and services. And one example is when the larger companies support small-scale companies to come into the market and produce these new bioeconomy adapted products.
Let's stay close to home first and look at the challenges facing the forest sector in the Nordic region. We went out on one of the Congress's great field trips to get hands-on and find out more.
The focus of this excursion is to show what we are working with within the research program FRAS. FRAS is a future silviculture of southern Sweden, and it's a joint research program between 3 research organizations and the forestry sector. The people who are attending this excursion, they will go to 6 different excursion points here in the forest of Krusenberg, where they will be presented with what we do within the research program FRAS.
I select this excursion because I want to understand the different management of Swedish forest, and apparently they're doing all kinds of things, different silvicultural management and different ecosystem services, values. It's really a good trip to learn all these things. As I always tell myself, I tell my students, the best way to learn is by seeing it, by doing it. I think putting my body on the ground here is way different. It's much faster learning process for me, and I can bring all this, what I learned from the field, back to my classroom.
I think the attendees here will bring with them home is that we are working quite close together, the forest industry or the forest sector and researchers. Hopefully they enjoyed watching a real forest with a mixture and discussing the problems we are facing and the hopes we are believing we will have in the future with an increased share of mixed forest.
I joined this trip because I was excited about an opportunity to come out actually into the forests of Sweden and learn more about how forestry is practiced here. I think that's one of the most interesting things about going to conferences, especially IUFRO, is to learn a little bit about how forestry is practiced in other countries. I've learned a lot so far just from our first stop about how rotation ages are determined, about the general regeneration practices that are used here in Sweden and how they are different and yet familiar to systems that I'm familiar with in the US, like loblolly pine in the southeast or Douglas fir in the northwest.
All these Norway spruce and the Scotch pines are so beautiful. Almost 100 years ago, US introduced a lot of Scotch pine, but I think Scotch pine failed everywhere across the US. Now I see these beautiful Scotch pines growing in natural stands. I think that will be very different. So the students will experience, for example, why native Scotch pines are doing much better than introduced in US, North American.
I think it's important to have these excursions in the forest because you often get a better discussion about the topics that we are looking at, and also you get a feeling for it in a different way that you would if you were inside in an office.
Without a trip like this, I'd have no opportunity to experience the forests and how forestry is practiced here, which again is one of the biggest advantages of coming to a conference like this, is not just to learn the science, but then to actually get out into the forest and onto the ground and learn about how people practice forestry in other places.
In our first feature for the day, let's head to Ethiopia. The PATSPO project is aimed at vastly improving the quality of tree seed and seedlings in the country, supporting the government in its efforts at forest restoration.
Trees help our soils be healthy. Trees capture carbon. Why wouldn't people want to plant them? One of the key challenges has been the access to quality planting material.
The PATSPO project, that is the provision of adequate tree seed portfolios, was started in 2017.
The overall objective of the PATSPO project is to assist the government in getting the best possible seed available for the tree planting programs they're doing.
Half of our land mass is already degraded. In order to reclaim this land and also make it more productive, tree planting is crucial.
There are many benefits to the people in the areas where the restoration is going on. It's the empowerment of the community, and also there is the improving of livelihood.
We have established 45 breeding seed orchards. Capacities have been enhanced. This is just the start. Our ambition is for the whole of Africa, for starters, and then we'll come to the other continents.
Time to look beyond timber products now, at the other materials forests provide communities and companies all over the world. We caught up with experts to discuss how to ensure a responsible forest bioeconomy factors these in effectively.
6 billion people rely directly on forests for food and medicine. And then that number increases significantly when you think about people relying on it indirectly for the sale of those products to support their livelihood. So people's food security and nutrition depend on forests. And yet we manage forests primarily for timber and wood, and these other products are not really considered in forest management.
NTFPs are significant sources of food and income for our local and indigenous communities. So this could also enhance economic diversification, resilience, and sustainable livelihoods that could also reduce the pressure on our timber resources. I work in Southeast Asia, specifically in the Philippines, where we have numerous underutilized indigenous fruit tree species. But they're often not used because they lack the knowledge on the uses and potential benefits of these NTFPs. We also found out that only a handful of them are being recognized for their market potential. So by harnessing and utilizing these NTFPs, we can foster a balanced forest bioeconomy, and at the same time, that will benefit both people and the planet.
Well, first of all, just recognizing that they are of national importance, and then supporting policies and regulations to incorporate them into forest management activities through legislation, through improving inventory of the resources, to working with diverse stakeholders and different sectors of the forest economy. For example, many of these products go into pharmaceutical industries, cosmetics, healthcare, a variety of other things that we just don't really think about when we think about a forest-based economy.
So I hope that with research, we could reveal more of the uses and benefits of indigenous fruit tree species, and that policies, specifically in the Philippines, could be developed so that we can integrate them into forest management plans and greening initiatives.
I'm hopeful that nations will respond. I think organizations like IUFRO will respond and advocate for research and policies, and I think they'll recognize the importance of these products to the people and the biodiversity of their lands.
Let's take a look now at one solution to building a responsible forest bioeconomy in East Africa. The Climate Smart Forest Economy Programme is working to balance the needs of forests, people and the atmosphere with the aim to reduce global deforestation and forest degradation.
Forests are essential to the climate regulation of our planet. We need to use circular economy approaches to recycle and reuse the carbon that is stored in the wood products that are utilized in the cities, and we need to regenerate the capacity of the forests to absorb carbon from the atmosphere.
For a climate smart forest economy to be truly healthy, it needs to be developed according to what the forest needs rather than according to what the market demands.
Now is not the time to be driven by fear. We need a response that is driven by hope. And the hope is that we should be unlocking this climate smart solution as one of the best land-based climate smart solutions that we have access to. And we need everybody behind that.
As the world seeks to regulate forest activities in order to ensure the long-term survival of this vital part of our planet, we also see a rise in illegal activities in the forest supply chain. To discuss the impact this is having in the Western Balkans, I'm joined by Maja Radosavljevic. Well, first of all, thanks very much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Happy to be here.
So we're talking about illegal activities. But before we get into the Western Balkans, what kind of illegal activities are we talking about in general?
We can say that all illegal activities in forestry are connected with activities that violate international forestry laws and that also violate international regulations and procedures that we have in forestry. So we can speak about illegal logging, we can speak about timber theft, and we can also say that we have a legal trade of wood or non-wood forest products. And all of these activities damage to the biodiversity, to the forestry, and not only economically but also environmentally, and that is maybe even more important.
So, Western Balkans, why did you look at the Western Balkans?
Oh, it is a really huge and, let's say, important area from Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Serbia. So we decided to take a look on that forest-rich area. It is not also by economically forest that there is there, but also because of the biodiversity spots, and we have a lot of protected forests. So that was one of the main reasons why we decided to focus on Forest Balkans. Also, we are speaking about some countries that are belonging to the European Union and some of them in the candidate status. So we decided to see how some EU regulations can be implemented in future EU countries and how can that be done effectively.
So what do you think are the main drivers of the illegal activities?
We definitely can speak about economic conditions in the Western Balkans, especially when we're speaking about rural areas and the people living there. And also one important thing is a private forest, not only the state ones, because there are a lot of private forest owners who left their forests and no one take care about that. So the couple of things are really important in that part. But with a strong and effective government, in the sense that the people who are working in forestry, I believe that we can somehow, combat these even small things with the different regional initiatives.
So when you talk about how things can be done effectively, what can governments do to combat these illegal activities?
I believe a lot if they want to improve this kind of things, and if they really want to understand why illegal logging is happening, they need really to listen many of stakeholders involved in this. It is not just like let's talk with the forest owners and let's talk with the big companies, and especially the forest management and the industry companies, but it's also important to have input from the forestry inspection, input from the non-governmental organizations that are playing a really important role now these days in the Balkans. So it is connecting all of the people who can contribute by their knowledge and trying to understand all of things that have influence why illegal logging is happening. And only in that way we can make some laws and the procedures and rules improved and better implemented in practice. And only by that there is a chance that we have a small level of illegal logging and of course the better forest and the better environment for ourselves.
Thank you so much indeed for joining us. It's been a pleasure to meet you, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for having me.
Now to California, a group working with local communities to build regenerative forest economies. Let's visit the Sierra Institute.
The mission of the Sierra Institute has been to improve the lives and well-being of people living in rural forest communities and the landscapes on which they depend.
The Dixie Fire burned about 1 million acres, much of it at high severity, over the course of about 2.5 months.
When the Dixie Fire hit, we knew we needed to rebuild quickly, we needed to rebuild differently.
We talk a lot about post-Dixie, but it's really like the time between fires, because there's going to be another fire. And we need to think about what really the system is to move things like, products to things like CLT to then rebuild communities.
I think in the future we hope to see that there are treatments on the landscape that allow us to live with fire, so that when we have wildfire events, it's not a catastrophic, life-threatening event. We want to help restore a condition in the forest that can support that process on the landscape.
That's the end of another great show right here in Stockholm. We've heard from experts on how to build a responsible forest bioeconomy, but if you've missed anything, how can you check it out? Well, you'll find us on screens throughout the venue, on the IUFRO World Congress website, and you'll find all our content online and on YouTube and X. Can you believe it? Tomorrow we'll be back with our last episode as we combine two themes, looking at forest biodiversity as well as forests for the future. Make sure to join us for one final jam-packed show. So until tomorrow, it's goodbye.